Hi, everybody. This is Brett Lonsdale from Lightning Tools. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon with our Forms webinar. So we're going to be taking a look at four, maybe five different products today, which are all designed to help you build modern forms with automation as well built into your Microsoft SharePoint environments. So we've got quite a lot to get through, so I'm going to keep the intro very brief today, and then I'm going to jump straight into lots of products, and you should also see some great demos with a bit of luck. And feel free to ask any questions at the end of the webinar or during the chat as well. So the chat window is open. Feel free to post any questions there. And if I can get to it, or if one of my colleagues can get to it, we'll be able to answer those as we go through the webinar. Okay, so first of all, just a very quick intro for those who are not familiar with Lightning Tools. So my name is Brett Lonsdale. I'm founder of Lightning Tools. We created the company around about 17 years ago now, so back in 2007. And we created the company in order to help people be more efficient when they're using Microsoft SharePoint. Of course, back then, we were all using SharePoint 2003 or SharePoint 2007, and our tools have evolved since then into lots of different development platforms, and now most of them are in the SharePoint framework environment for SharePoint Online and also Microsoft Teams as well. So like I said, we're going to have a real focus on four different products today. These are the Lightning Forms, the form design tool. We're also going to have a look at how to build actions into your list command bars and also on pages using Lightning Tools actions. And there's also the document generator, which we're going to be taking a look at. So that's how we can take forms and create them as documents that could be shared and printed either in Word or PDF format. And we're also going to have a look at one of our partners products, which is Kudzu, and that is the form migrator, which will help you to migrate from different form technologies, and we'll talk about that as we get to it. There are two product announcements that we're going to be talking about, so I'll save those towards the end. And like I say, there's going to be plenty of demos, both on existing features, but we're also going to call out quite a lot of the new features as well that we're pushing out in Lightning Forms. So anybody that is on here who already has Lightning Forms, you will see some new features as we go through the demonstration. Okay, so in terms of those products, so as I mentioned, we've got the Lightning Forms tool, which is the list form design product. So that is Lightning Forms. We've also got Lightning Tools Actions. This is a product that you can use within SharePoint lists or libraries. So you're going to be using that to create command bar buttons as SPFX extensions. You can fire off lots of different actions against your list items. So this could be not just a single item, but multiple items within inside a list or a library. The document generator, which can be used with Lightning Forms or with Lightning Tools Actions, or of course both. And then there's the Kudzu form migrator as well. So these are the four main products that we'll be taking a look at. We're going to start off with Lightning Forms. Just to sort of intro some of the benefits of using Lightning Forms. Number one, of course, you can design a form layout as you would probably expect. What really sets this apart is the fact that you're going to be creating that form layout in the context of Microsoft SharePoint. So there's no surprises there. It's not like the InfoPath days where you would have a InfoPath form designer, you'd also have an InfoPath form filler, and even with things like Power Apps, where there's a design experience and then there's a sort of browser experience, it's difficult sometimes to know exactly what you get. And of course, whilst you're also designing the form and you're adding logic to those forms as well, you're not testing the logic within the context of where you are. I.e. in the browser. So these are some of the benefits of Lightning Forms. You can design a powerful form layout that suits your business. They could include multiple columns. They can include tabs and so on as well to encapsulate some of those fields, make it more stylish and easy to fill out form. There's lots of places that you can add logic, and you can do this using actions. You can also do it using calculations within inside of your forms as well. And most of the time, this is a no code or low code solution, which is really beneficial for business users to be able to build out the solutions that they need to create. But as you're probably all aware, when you're using something that is purely low code or purely no code, it's very difficult to really extend that last 10% to have a powerful solution. So you can absolutely get into Lightning Forms and write code to give you that extra 10% if you need to. There's lots of places where you can do that. You can also add style to your forms as well, either fixed styling or conditional styling. And there's also automation that you can add through, again, things like the actions as well. Yeah, benefits of it. The contextual design experience goes a long way. Another huge win for Lightning Forms is where the data is stored and processed. So we're building a solution here where we're extending the Microsoft list form. So if you're using Microsoft lists or SharePoint lists, you've created your columns inside those lists, it's within those lists where your data resides. Now, that is great for companies that are concerned about information security and not being stored or processed outside of your Microsoft 365 tenant. But equally, it's also protected within the business as well. So we've got, of course, SharePoint site permissions and list permissions and so on, even item permissions that we can set using the existing accounts that you have inside your Microsoft 365 tenant. That's a great benefit there, let alone having the familiarity with how SharePoint lists operate already. So there's some new features. We're going to call these out straight away. I'll just mention the new features, and then you'll see these as part of the demo as well. So this screenshot here is actually what we're going to be building today in the demo. I'm really going to be competitive with the amount of time on the clock for this webinar to do that. So I have got this pre-built, and then we're going to work backwards. We're going to reset the form and build in from scratch some of these details, which will be sort of a less polished one than the one I'm going to show you from the outset. What is new? First of all, we have this process step control. So anybody that has already been using Lightning Forms won't have seen this before. This is something that works with choice columns, and it allows you to see visually where the form is at as we go through the either different sections of the form or also different statuses of the form, such as, has it been submitted but not yet approved, and so on. We can track that as the form goes through its cycle. We've also got the ability to use the expression builder with cross-site collection queries. So there's a new expression that you can use in order to be able to query information in a different site, collection, which is fantastic. A couple of nice things here. We've got divider controls. There's actually one on the page here already. So this allows you to create sections, but not necessarily just using tabs. You've got a clear separator between different sections of your form, either using a divider bar, or you can also use a spacer control as well, and just simply add spacing into those modern responsive forms. The rich text control has grown also. So you're going to see a brand new rich text control. It's a lot nicer to use, offers similar functionality, but more modern in appearance, and also, like I say, very intuitive when you're adding titles or section headers or even information to your forms in text. The taxonomy picker has been improved, so there's if you are using managed metadata, you'll see improvements with the side panel and how we can go through and pick out terms from our metadata. And finally, a couple of other little points. One is a data lookup to teams. So not only can you look up from lists or libraries across sites, which is something we've always been able to do with Lightning Forms, but you can also look up teams as well. So that is really useful as you're building out the logic on your form. And the final one, nice little feature but useful, is if you're using tabs on your form, you can set a home tab. So my first tab here is set as home. Again, nice little feature, but what we used to have to do is use a form load action to set the default tab. So it's an extra step that you shouldn't really need to do. So now it's just a simple click that little home button there, and that sets that as the home tab on the form. Okay, so that's what's new, and we're going to see some of these play out in the demonstration that we're going to walk through just now. There is a QR code here on the page as well. You'll see different QR codes for each of these different products. So I'm going to throw quite a lot of information at you during the webinar. Might be too much to absorb, or if you wanted to look at something specific, please feel free to book a demo with me, and we'll be able to go through in detail form design around your specific needs inside of your organization. So let's jump into Lightning Forms. So here we are with our standard SharePoint page, and what I'm going to do is actually use one of these Lightning Tools action buttons to add a supplier. So quite often I end up filling out these long-winded forms every time you guys order a product from us. So I thought I'd get my own back and design one of these forms for you to look at. So this form here is a supplier assessment form. So quite often we need these, especially if we're adhering to different standards inside of our organization. We want to vet the suppliers that are going to be supplying our organizations with products or services, whatever it might be. So I've created one of these inside of SharePoint. You can see we've got that new control that I mentioned. So across the top here is the new process step control. So these are the stages that we might need to go through before we finally welcome a supplier into our organization. So that's where we've got that final approval. So anybody opening up this form, either in read mode or in edit mode, will always be able to check the status of the form and where it is currently. We've also got this reference field, so that's going to be calculated automatically when I submit this for approval. So we'll see that value being set, and that is my title field. In this case, you'll notice that I can't click in there or type in here because it's basically been disabled, and I'll show you how we can go through and enable and disable fields on the form, and then maybe calculate those instead of having the user confused and filling out values manually. A little bit further down, we've got another title using the rich text, followed by a divider. And on the form here is two different tabs where we've got the company information. So I'm just going to fill out a company here. So we're going to have Lightning Tools Training. That doesn't really exist. I'm just going to add that in there. We're going to put in the address. And I'm keeping this fairly sweet. I'm not going to go with city, state, zip, and so on. But of course, those would probably typically be there. We've got the size of the organization as well that we're vetting. And notice how we can, of course, go on to the next tab, or we could click that next button as well, which is going to use an action to redirect us. We can fill out the contact person. So I'll stick myself in there, my email address, and my phone number. I'm just going to put a random phone number in there for now. Okay, so there's the contact details, and then it's quite clear then the different sections of the form. So under here we've got the information security. So are we ISO 27001 certified? We are. And notice what happens when I say we are. We can display or hide other choices based on that choice as well. So I'm just going to go through and set a certification date, and again we can click next and move on to the next stage, which is the Slavery Act. So we're just going to say yes to that one, and then business continuity. Yes, we do business continuity testing. So so these are of course some of the different fields that we might want to fill out when we're vetting different suppliers. Okay, products and services. This is a sublist. So this is where we can create a sort of one-to-many type join between two different lists. So in here, I'm going to drop in Lightning Forms as one of the products that we provide, and it's a form design tool for SharePoint. Okay, so we'll add that one, and then of course we could go through and add more if we want to, and they get populated into another list. And then there's this approval section which we've got a bit of styling applied to, and I can change this at the moment because I am inside of an Active Directory security group or Entra AD group called approvers. If I wasn't in that group, then all of this would be grayed out for me as well, and you'll be able to see that as we test it a bit further later on. So that's the form filled out. It's more logical. There is a status field as well. I forget where I put that, but it's on here somewhere. Oh, there we go. So it's saved draft. So as I submit this for approval, it's going to set the supplier reference, we get a little message back to say it has been submitted for approval, and that field will have been populated. So if we just jump into that list here, you'll be able to see our new supplier called supplier 4, the details of that supplier. And if we go in and edit or display that item, we'll be able to see those different stages that it has to go through. So there's the new process step control. It's been submitted for approval. Let's just come down here to the bottom and we'll change that manually because I can. So we'll say it's gone through for QMS review, and as we save that, and let's just go through and edit that again, you'll see how that process step has moved on, so we can track those stages. And of course, that could be automated through some of the different actions as well. Now here on the edit form, I'm doing a little bit more than what we did before. Notice there is this supplier agreement tab, which currently isn't showing anything. If we've vetted this supplier and we're happy to onboard them, what I can do is just generate a supplier agreement. So we've created that is actually creating the Word document, and it's put that Word document inside the document library as well. So let's just save this. Let's go in and check that document exists. So so here inside my agreements folder, we can see supplier 4 created a few seconds ago. So if we go back into our list and open up that item, go into the supplier assessment form, and we'll edit this item. Okay, and we can hopefully see the supplier agreement this time. There we go. So the supplier agreement has been generated. That's using the document generator, but we can preview here for convenience using the file viewer control. And I could also send that to the supplier from here as well. So as I hit the send, it's got the email address already from the form. We can change the message if we want to. So we can come in here and type my message. Let's just save that. And there's the attachment as well. So that's already attached from the document library, and we can hit send, and that's going to send off that email. Okay, so that's a sort of finished proof of concept of the sort of thing that you can do with Lightning Forms, with the document generator. We haven't yet got into Lightning Tools actions, but I'll be showing you some of that as well. So we're going to now undo all of this, and we'll have a look at how that's built. So we're going to jump into Lightning Forms. And when we click onto that Lightning Forms button, which you can only do if you are a site owner, you will notice that it displays all of the forms that live inside the list. So whether it's a SharePoint list or a Microsoft list, these are the forms I'm using. You can add new forms if you want to, and you can load those with actions, but these are the 3 default ones that you would get. So they've all been customized. I'm going to edit the customization of the new form. So that will load the design experience for me. So we just give that a moment, and you'll notice in here that I can uncustomize it. Now, just before I do that, you'll also see that we've got version control in here as well. So as I've been making these iterations within the form, that's all been saved. So I can always revert back to a previously saved version as well, should I make a change that I can't recover from if I made a mistake and so on. But what we're going to do here is actually just uncustomize it, which is going to put it back to what it was originally when we just built the SharePoint list and created all of our columns and so on. So we'll just let that load. It's gone into full screen. It just does that when you uncustomize. But what you'll notice here when we refresh our list to get rid of any cache and we hit new, this is a default SharePoint list form. So as you can see, all of those fields, they're not in that logical order with the different tabs, with the different sections. There's no sub list, there's no conditional formatting, and so on. It's just really a side panel with a list of columns in the order in which they were created. So let's just cancel out of that, and we'll open up Lightning Forms again. And you can see my customize button no longer says edit customization because it is uncustomized. So we'll now click customize, and we'll get building that. Now, warning, the one that you did see took me probably about an hour and a half to build. We don't have that amount of time here in the webinar, so this isn't going to be as polished, but hopefully you'll be able to see some of the things that we're creating, and you can see how that solution was built. So within the form here, we can go into the form settings first of all. Now you'll have noticed that the side panel on the default form is a small, or sorry, medium side panel. I'm going to make it a large side panel, which will keep it as a side panel, but it will fill out more of the screen as you saw. So everything on this left-hand side, I can't do anything with until I close that side panel anyway. It's wasted space. So going with a large side panel keeps that responsive design, so you can still fill it out on a mobile and so on if you need to. And it still looks like you're in SharePoint without going for a full screen design. So we're just going to switch to that one. And when we've got multiple columns wide and tab controls and so on, it's far easier to see it like that. We're back to having just the save and the cancel button. So I'm going to go to the actions menu here, click onto command bar, and I'm just going to change the save to read save draft. So people are sort of clear that that's not it. We want to do something more. So I'm going to now do a save and submit action instead. We can choose an icon for that. So we'll choose a little send icon here. Notice how we can set when this button is going to be visible, when it's going to be enabled as well. So we could work in context with the status field that's on my form. So if this changes from draft to submitted, then we could actually hide the button based on that status field, using that as a condition, so the button doesn't say submit anymore. The actions we can configure, of course, and in here we've got this scope control that we're going to start off with. Now, the scope control allows us to encapsulate the different actions that we want to perform by clicking this button. And then rather than handling conditions for each individual action, handling messages for whether they were successful or not, we can do that with inside one scope control. So we can put all of the actions that are going to be performed here, where it says drag actions here. And then if it's successful, we'll display something. If it's failed for whatever reason, we might want to give some reasons as to why it might fail. So that could be a message or whatever that we want to create. So with inside the actions, the first thing I'm going to do is save the form. So save scrolling up and down. I'm just going to type these. So we'll drop in the save form. We could then set a field value. So I'm just going to drag that one in as well. So the field here is going to be the status field. Okay, and I'm going to change the value of that to submitted for approval. Okay, so we could type that in as a static value. You can also do concatenations and so on using the expression builder. And then we also may want to do something like send an email. So I just double clicked on that, which put it outside of that scope block. So I'm just going to bring that up here back into the actions. So we're going to send this from the current user. So under the context objects here, we can get to the users. We can get to the user's email address. With Lightning Forms, you can also test your expressions without saving the form and going back and creating a list item. So you can see here, it's generating the email address. So we know that that's going to work. So that's the email that will be sent from. And who this is going to be sent to, I'm just going to hard code the email address, and the subject could be new supplier assessment. Okay, and we'll just keep that fairly brief in terms of the email. I'll come back to some of these other options very shortly. I'm then just going to finish off with another save at that point. Now, if that is successful, we could show a success message. If it's unsuccessful, we could also show a message. So this one is just going to read and display for 5 seconds, successfully submitted. And we can make that a green success message, and we'll do similar thing here, saying failed for some reason. Of course, we could be more specific and handle that appropriately. And then finally, we're just going to have a close form at the end of all of this. And so notice you can collapse these, which makes it a little bit more easier to read what's going on. So we can always see the different actions that are going to be taking place as part of our action builder here. Okay, and we'll get more into some of the other actions as we go through it. But that is our first action created. You can move those around, you can make them fly out menus and that type of thing as well if you want to. So there's our save and submit. Now we have the new rich text control. We'll just have a quick look at that. So when I hit the plus here on the form, notice that you can insert the different fields. You can create new fields if there's one that you forgot to create for whatever reason when you were designing your SharePoint list. You can go through and create at this stage. And underneath that field section, we have the data lookup. This is a cross-site data lookup control. We've also got the other controls like tabs and action buttons, the file viewer, the new process steps, which we're going to be having a look at in a moment, and also the divider and spacer. And then we've also got other lists and libraries that we can insert on the form as well. So we're going to just have a quick look at that rich text control and put a title on supplier assessment form. I'm going to center that. We'll make it a header and so on. And of course, you can style it a lot more. You can drop images on here. You can get into the source if you wanted to create placeholders, like pick out some of the field values and display those inside your header, that sort of thing. You can do so. Okay, new divider. We could drop that divider on the page here, so you can choose the weight in pixels and also the length in terms of how much of the screen it fills. So that's our divider there. The color of that is being picked up from the theme applied to our site as well, but you'll be able to style this as well under the styling tab. All right, the reference field. This is going to be calculated. So what we can do is make sure that nobody fills that out. So where it says enabled, we can just go into the expression builder in here and we'll just say is equal to false, and that will do. That will mean that yeah, this is disabled. Nobody able to fill that out. Okay, so then we've got the ability to create the tabs to organize these fields a little bit better. So as I create the tabs here, let's just create a couple. So the first one is going to be our company info, and I'll just choose an icon for that. And second one here will have contact details. Okay, so once more, we'll just choose a relevant icon. And notice how this is the new default home tab. So we can choose which tab gets loaded when you land on this page. So very simple. The row configuration we can also change. So you can choose how many columns we're going to have in each of these. And then we can simply drag and drop the fields into the relevant location. So yeah, just bringing in those fields where we want those to appear. Okay, so that's how we create the tabbed areas. Just above that, we're going to have a look at this new process control. So let's just drop that onto the form, the process steps. So you'll notice that it's also automatically recognized any choice columns within my form. So it's found one called company size. So it's showing those, but I've got one called status, and these are the different options inside that choice field. So it's automatically detected it. And then we've got different styles of layout that you can choose from. So yeah, there's a few there again that tie in with the theme that we've got applied and so on our form. Okay, so if we're happy with that, we just click onto OK, and that's all there is to creating that process step control. It's just going to be driven through that choice field as we navigate through there. All right, so I'm sure you don't need to see me creating more tabs and dragging and dropping fields into the relevant places. So let's just go in and add a sublist, something we've not looked at yet, and then I'll call out some of these other new features as well. So if we want a sublist, we've got one called products and services. So I'm going to choose the products and services list, and notice how that gets embedded on the page here. And all we need to do, if we want it to be related to the main form, is treat it as a sub item. So that will mean that it's going to use a lookup column to associate, just like we would with a primary key and a foreign key. You can do the same thing with a SharePoint lookup column. Now, it's already created one because I've already got this example built. But if you didn't already have one, you can just generate a lookup column, hitting the plus button there, and it will create one that will give that option for cascade delete as well. So should you delete the main form, it's going to delete the products and services for that supplier in this case as well. So I'm just going to choose the one that we had built earlier on. You may also want to use some of the sublists to not just show related items, but show all items perhaps as well. So it could be also a sub document library and not just a sub list. In which case you can also apply a camel filter if you wanted to, so you can filter out the items that are going to be displayed on the form. And you can also customize the appearance, header text, what controls are shown inside that sublist, and so on, whilst that is on the form. All right, so we'll just save that, and that will embed that for me. Okay, in terms of styling, you'll notice at the very top here is a styling option as well. So this allows me to add general styles to each of the different controls on the form. So we wanted to change all fields, for example, we could do that. We can select the fields, add a style control, and either start from scratch where you want to build your own styles, or there's also some templates that you can use, or you can create your own templates too. So notice, regular things like if the status says it's approved, you might want to change that field to green. If there's an error, you could change it to red with a pink background, and so on. So those are there for you to use, or just simply say from scratch, I want to create one, and this will allow you to go through and change all of the fields in one go. So everything currently has a black font as a label. So what I'm going to do is just show you how you could change that label. Let's go with the theme color, and we'll preview that. And you can see here all of the labels have now turned red, and so on. So we'll save and close that, and live with it. Okay, if you wanted to add a conditional style, rather than changing the general styles here, you find the control that you want to set. So we could come all the way down to status, for example, and on that, if we add a style, our rule could be that the status field is equal to final approval. You can test that again, so it's going to return true or false, and if we're okay with that, then we can go through and set however we want that to be displayed. So again, we could have chosen that template, or we can do that manually. So the input field we could show as green, and we could have a dark green border. A little bit darker, there we go. And once more, we could preview that as well. So there we go. Okay, so that's going to be conditional. If it's approved, it will display like that. Otherwise, it will look standard. Okay, so that's how we can do most of the changes that you've seen. I'm just going to show you some of the lookup columns as well, which are useful. So the lookup column, if I did a data lookup, the standard SharePoint lookup column is restricted to the current site. But what you'll see here, we can give our column a name. So it might be tasks that we want to look up from or something like that. Notice that you can choose a site. So all I need is a site URL. I'm just going to point this to the same one, but this could be a different site. And it will return for you the lists and the libraries from that site. And you can then choose the column that you want to display. Now, rather than just showing a single column, like the SharePoint lookup column does, what we can also do is have an enhanced lookup that actually shows multiple values in the dropdown. And you can also search it as well. So if we wanted to be able to search inside the description field, for example, we could do that. And we've got a much more powerful lookup control then added onto the form, which allows me to go across items, and you can see the result there. Rather than just showing that single column of values, we've got the 4 columns displayed here, with the ability to search as well. So what has changed with this, as I mentioned earlier on, is we've also got the ability to add a lookup column that returns values from teams. So let's just add another one. And so we can hit this drop down here, choose teams. So I'm just going to call this my teams, and okay that. And so here we go. Yep, probably not going to populate until I go back and test that, but that is going to return a list of teams for me, which we could use for notifications and so on and so forth if we wanted to. Okay, so I'm just going to wrap the Lightning Forms section up by importing a configuration. So I exported the configuration earlier. So you can do that at any stage. We can export the configuration that we created, and then you can import it, which is a great way of actually working with the 3 separate forms that you get inside a SharePoint list. We can do all of the work inside maybe the new form, export that design, then import that into the display form and the edit form to have a consistent look and feel, but they remain separate. So you can go through and add any individual logic to those forms that are specific to those form types. Okay, so that's our new form. I'm not going to unset the configuration on the edit form, but I'm just going to show you how a couple of things are configured. So let's just jump into Lightning Forms here. We'll go into the edit form, and you'll have seen that we had an action button that sent an email, and there's also one that created a document as well, which we'll also have a look at. So the let's go down here to the supplier agreement. So this is simply a file viewer control. We'll have a look at that in a bit more depth in a moment. But if we go into the button configuration here for our send email, you can drop a button, as you can see, on the form anywhere. And then as we go through and configure the actions, there's just a send email action on this one, with a couple of the checkboxes set, which you didn't see before. This is actually generating the attachment dynamically. So through the generate document action, which you'll see shortly, we create the document into the shared document library in a subfolder called agreements, and the name of it is prefixed with sup for supplier, followed by the item ID, so that each document is named uniquely. So that's how we generate the document, and then here when we're attaching it to an email, we already know what it's going to be called. it's got the same name that we used when we generated the document in the same path, so we can just reference it dynamically and attach that. And here we've also got that show message before send, which allows me to modify the message that's being sent out before it actually goes. And who it's being sent to, we're just picking up the field on the form for that contact email. Still hear me? Okay, so we're just going to cancel out of that. Let's just save and close this, and we'll jump back into our PowerPoint slides here. So in terms of the document generator, so we were just talking about that. How do we generate the Word documents? We'll have a look at. We've also got the merge Word document action that we can use, and there's also convert to PDF, which we're going to see here. So the document generator, it contains those 3 premium actions. You can either use those inside of Lightning Forms, or you can also use them inside of Lightning Tools actions as well. So it'll work in both places. And they're the 3 actions that you get as part of the document generator. Okay, so what we're going to do is generate the supplier agreement that you saw, and I'll show you the Word document. All you do with the actual document itself, it starts off as a standard Word document, and wherever you want to place a column, so very similar to a mail merge, we just insert the field name in double square braces. So notice how we've got company name in here, and then we've also got company address as well. So this could be an invoice that you're going to send, or it could be an agreement, multiple things that it can be. So that's the Word document. You can save it wherever you like. All we're then going to do is upload it into the action and use that to generate the document. So we'll bring up the supplier assessment form, and let's go into the edit form and edit that customization. Okay, so we've got the generate supplier agreement button, and let's just configure the actions for that one. And it's just a single action, as you can see. And all we do is hit upload new template. You can then point to your documents. There's the supplier template document. I had, of course, already created it, so yes, I'm going to override it. And then we fill out the rest of this section where we tell it what the data source is to merge with that document. So this is going to be a single item, which is really the only thing you can do from within inside the form, but from Lightning Tools actions, you could actually bulk generate documents for multiple items as well in there. And then we've got the list or the library. So it's this list, the supplier assessment form that we were working with. And then we reference the ID column. So that's unique, ID being the item ID. We've then got a choice whether we want to open up the document, save it, and where do we want to save it to if we are saving it, and what subfolder do we want to create it in. So notice how we've got that agreement subfolder there, and then here's the file name. So we're picking up the title field, which is the reference column in my case, followed by the DOCx extension, and if it already exists, we'll overwrite it. So they're the options that are set in there, and that is it to generate the document. Now, since we know where that's going to go, we know what it's going to be called. If we do want to use that file viewer control, we can just drop that onto the page anywhere, and notice we can set a dynamic path to that. So if we go into the expression again here, you can see that it's got the relative path. We know it's called title .docx, so we're then able to display that document inside the file viewer for convenience purposes. Okay, so that's how the document generator is working there. What we're going to do is just have a look at the Lightning Tools actions here and convert those Word documents out to a PDF now. So if we go into the document library where they reside, there's the agreement subfolder. And On the command bar, we can bring up Lightning Tools actions. And you can see we don't have any actions yet, so I'm going to add one. And we're going to call this one convert to PDF. And I could choose a icon if I want to. And we then have a choice as to whether we want to do this for everything in the list, whether we want to do it for a selected single item, or we can also select multiple items as well. So that will give me the selection handle over on the left-hand side here, where I could select multiple documents and convert them to PDF in one go. I'm just going to go with a single item at a time. We can again add a visible expression, and we can also configure some actions in here too. So the action we're going to do is a convert to PDF. It's this case we'll do this manually, so it's going to be a library in the current site called Documents. We're going to convert the one that I've got selected, so that'd be the ID of the one that is selected, and we can either open that up in the browser or we can save it to a library as well. So I'm going to save it out to the same place. We could give it a subfolder again if we want to. And we're just going to call it title.pdf. And again, if it already exists, we'll overwrite it. Okay, so that's now created. And you'll see here, if I select a single item, maybe hidden, yep, there's my convert to PDF. So we can now click that. Okay, we could have displayed a message or something, which we didn't. Typical bad user, I didn't set the title field, so it's just called .pdf. But there's the PDF. So if we open that up, you'll be able to see that that supply agreement is now a PDF, and we can do whatever we want with that, of course. Okay, so that is the document generator. You've seen how that can be used to create a Word document, but equally it can also be used to generate a PDF as well. And we just did that using Lightning Tools actions. So Lightning Tools actions, something you can add on the command bar of any list or any library. The advantage here is running against multiple items, and you've got the simplicity of building those actions as well. You can also add a button onto a page with Lightning Tools actions also. So you may be familiar with the quick links web part that you've got inside of SharePoint, where really it is just a hyperlink. This takes things a bit further. So just wait for the page to render here. You'll see that I've got 3 buttons here, which is still Lightning Tools actions. So if we edit the page here, you can add Lightning Tools actions. And we can then add our buttons. So we'll just call that open supplier form. Again, choose a relevant icon. And then when we hit the configure actions, you get the same actions that you've seen inside of Lightning Forms and also in Lightning Tools actions as well. So we have an open form navigation where I can go through and choose the list that I want to work with, which in this case is going to be the supplier assessment form. And we want to work with the new form. And when we do that, we can choose content type if we want to. We can choose how we want to open it, like in a panel or a new window, and what's the size of that panel that we want to create. So that you could probably do with the quick links, but with this, notice how there's so much more to it as well. We could then send an email if we wanted to. We can generate the Word documents. We can move documents, etc. So there's a series of different actions in there that you can build out and display on the page. And you see how this button looks different to these ones. That's because when we go into the properties here, there's different styles that you can select depending on how you want that to appear on the page. Okay, so that's the Lightning Tools actions that you can also work with and build out your SharePoint site that way. All right, we're moving on to migration. So you may have forms that already exist. So these could be Power App forms, they could be Excel forms, they could be Word forms, they could also be InfoPath PDFs, classic Nintex forms, and so on. And you want to take advantage of the fact that you're using SharePoint and the modern experience with the lists there. Now it's time consuming. Even if it's a simple form, you still have to go through and build a SharePoint list. You have to add all of the columns that you want to have inside that form, and then you need to design the form. So working with Kudzu Solutions, they've built a form migrator, not specifically for Lightning Tools, but for multiple vendors. You can actually probably convert from Lightning Forms to Nintex if you wanted to, or to Power Apps, and vice versa. So it can do any which way, because it allows you to convert from a form into an intermediary form called uniform, and then from that uniform out to whatever your source destination, your destination is going to be. So in this case, we're going to have a look at converting an InfoPath form over to Lightning Forms. And we can do the form design, but we can also process the data as well and convert that. Now, there is something new here as well. Historically, this has been around for a few years now, and Kudzu Solutions was a browser-based service application that you could use. The challenge with that is when you convert your data. The data was not being converted from the source to the destination within inside of your tenant, and again, that could be an issue. So there's now a desktop version. The desktop version lives on your network. You can install it on any workstation. You can again point it at an InfoPath form or whatever it might be, and then the output can be Lightning Forms. Not only that, the trial, which you won't be able to get just yet, but you will be able to soon, also has an ROI calculator. So if you find inside your environment you've got 100 InfoPath form libraries with a whole bunch of data, it will tell you how much that is going to look like in terms of manual effort versus using the migrator to migrate everything across. So we're going to jump into one more demo and have a look at that. So we have an InfoPath form here opened up in InfoPath. That might make you feel all warm and fuzzy, or you might be quitting the webinar right now. But there's the InfoPath form, and you'll notice that we've got the form design. It's got some repeating sections in there as well, and the ability to attach resumes and so on. So we're going to convert that. So I'm going to go into the new desktop version. So in the desktop version, notice how I've already added some forms. If I hadn't, what I could do is just say add forms. And either I can add them by pointing these at a site collection or pointing them at an environment, or we can also use the file system location where I can just simply pick out the form that I want to convert. So I've already done that section, and notice here that we've got the employment application form, the XSN, which is the same one that you see here inside of InfoPath. So we've loaded that in, and what I can do is, like I say, have a look at the ROI calculator. So once I've got all my forms in here, including PDF forms and so on, the ROI calculator will allow me to set what it's likely to cost me per hour if I was manually going to be rebuilding these forms and migrating the data. So there's just a figure in there. You can work with whatever currency you want. But the forms that it's found or that I've picked, it's determined how easy are these going to be to convert. So are they basic easy forms, or are they moderate to difficult forms to create? And it will give you an idea as to how many hours to do this manually versus how many hours it might take for the migrator. And yeah, that's being a little bit over the top, to be honest, because as you'll see in a minute, it just takes a few moments to convert some of these. So that will then give us the amount in savings. So let's say you can manually work with this as well. So let's say we've got 100 moderate forms that we want to work with. You can see the investment in doing those manually has been calculated, and you can see what that saving is going to be like. So that allows us to determine that. You'll be able to do that with a trial. If we take this form here, the employment application that you saw inside of InfoPath, we can preview it. That allows me to, before I deploy it and find some surprises, have a look at inside that uniform previewer as to how it's going to work. And you can see here we've got those repeating sections. The lookup columns are working, and so on. And it's got the same layout. So I'm happy with that. So what we can then do is go through and write it out. So to write it out, what I'm going to do is actually just spin up a new SharePoint site. Okay, so we'll go with a standard SharePoint team site. I'm just going to call that my InfoPath form. And create that. Okay, you had about 30 seconds of not hearing my voice. There we go. So there's the new form. Sorry, the new site. And if we go into site content, of course, you're just going to get the regular new site contents. Now I'm going to grab the URL to that newly created site, and we'll go back here into the form migrator, and I'm going to add that new location. We're going to work with the browser login because I'm already signed in to our Microsoft 365 tenant, so it can see the site, can authenticate with the site, and you can see how that test was successful. And so we're going to use that. Okay, so yeah, as we hit go, so this is brand new to me as well. Hopefully I've not missed a step. Let's just hit write here. Yeah, so we're writing it out to that connection. I think I did do that. Sorry. Let's just bring up the site again. Let's reload it. And there we go. There's the lists created. Now, the reason why there's multiple lists is because of those repeating tables. So this is the education. We've got employment history and so on. So we're going to go into the employment applications list, which is the main form. I'm just going to hit new. And you can see here that we've got the form looking exactly like it did over in InfoPath. And we can go through and create our new items with that one. Okay, so that's how we can perform an InfoPath migration. And I'm also going to show you here some of the things that are going to be coming with that, which aren't there just yet because the desktop is relatively new. But when we go through to the browser-based application, you'll see there's lots of different things that we can migrate from. And we've also got let me just hit home here. Also the form pilot, which is an AI-driven prompt where I could ask it to create me a form. So we're running an event next week. So we need a form for dietary requirements. So I'm going to say, create me a form asking speakers for their dietary requirements. I'll leave the spelling mistake on the dietary, see what it goes like. There we go. So let's just hit go. And what we end up with is a form that we can either customize or live with, and we can do the same thing. We can push that out to SharePoint. Now, I know we're at time, so I'm going to rush a little bit on from Kudzu. Again, there was I'll give you the links later as well, so you can find out where you can book a private demo if you want to. But I just want to talk about something that's coming very, very soon. It's being deployed at the moment, and that is Lightning Tools Forms Studio. So there's a few things that you cannot do with Lightning Forms and with Lightning Tools Actions and so on that you can or will be able to do with the Form Studio. So this is going to be an upgrade from Lightning Forms and Lightning Tools Actions. What it's going to allow you to do is each of these 5 steps. So you'll be able to package and publish your forms, so you're not working in real time like you currently are with Lightning Forms. There'll be templates that you can use. Permissions can be packaged. You've also got background calculations and scheduled actions, and there's also some Microsoft 365 actions as well that we'll be including. So just to talk you through some of this, the package and publish. Yeah, basically we work with inside the studio rather than working contextually with inside the list itself. You can design the layout of the forms, you can build your actions and so on. You're going to be able to do more with calculations because you've got the ability to create background processes and calculations as well. And then yeah, that can all be packaged and deployed out multiple times to different lists inside of different tenants if you want to. So that's the package and publish feature. There's also templates. So if there's sections of forms, like maybe contact sections or something like that that you want to reuse, you'll be able to create those as templates and then include them in multiple forms as well. So it's going to obviously save on your development time. It's also going to give a more consistent look and feel to each of your forms as well. In terms of the contact section will always look similar. You'll have scheduled actions. So at the moment, the actions that you've seen today are triggered actions. You have to click a button for them to do something, but we'll then be able to schedule actions as well. So if, for example, you have an approval workflow and you want somebody to sign it, it could go to one person. If they don't do anything for a week, it could go on to the next person, which is something that we can't do today. It has to be there and then as you click the button. And the Microsoft 365 actions, you've seen some actions today where we can do things like create list items, send emails, and so on. The Microsoft 365 actions go beyond SharePoint. You can do things in Teams. So I've got Teams selected here, so you can create a tab, you can create a channel, you can add members to a team, update channels, etc. So all of these different actions you'll be able to perform, and then you're going to see similar ones for Planner. You'll see them for OneNote, OneDrive, and so on through there. And there's also notifications as well, which could be like Teams notifications as part of those actions that are firing. All right, so that's what's coming. We are going to arrange another webinar where you'll be able to see the Lightning Tools Forms actions, Lightning Tools Form Studio in action, and we'll create obviously some demos for you to see with that one as well. And that will include everything you've seen today. Will be included inside of Lightning Tools Form Studio bar the migration. But yeah, you'll be able to do everything that you can do inside of Forms and Lightning Tools Actions and the document generator, plus all these extra things like packaging and deploying and the additional Microsoft 365 actions as well. All right, so squeezing a lot into an hour and 4 minutes there. So if there is more that you would like to know, please feel free to book a demo. There's the QR code in the top right corner. You'll of course be able to find out more information on our website by going to lightningtools.com. Under products, you're going to see the products that we've talked about today. Feel free to reach out to me on brett@lightningtools.com. And if you want to stick around to ask questions, I'm here. I see there's been a couple of questions already. I'm not sure whether Sandy's answered any of these. Let me see. So yeah, there's a question here about is there any limitation with the Kudzu migrator with InfoPath form conversion? So I know Rob's on the call as well, so he can correct anything that I say. Rob is from Kudzu, but yeah, there's going to be sometimes maybe some backend code or something that the Kudzu migrator can't understand, but it doesn't fail at that point. It's going to tell you it's going to give you a to-do list, and basically say that yeah, it's converted like maybe 95% of the form, or could convert 95% of the form, because it will give you that in stats. And then it will tell you the things that you might have to do manually, if that's not possible. So yeah, there will be some things that are perhaps quite advanced or specific, to a form, that it can't do. And Rob, feel free to chime in on the chat if there's anything there that you've got as an example of the things that the Kudzu migrator wouldn't be able to do there. And then, yeah, can Lightning Tools generate a document set in SharePoint? I don't believe so. I might need some time to process that one, but yeah, we'll have your contact details, John, and I'll reach out to you and yeah, let you know how I can help you in that regard. Okay, I think they are the only questions. Just two questions. So at that point, I'm going to thank everybody for attending. I hope you found this useful. Hope to see you on the next webinar, where we'll be talking about the Lightning Tools Form Studio, and we've also got one coming up as well on some of our other products. So check back on our website by clicking onto the webinars tab, and you'll be able to register for some additional webinars very soon. All right. Well, thank you very much. Take care.